So we're going to get back into more Black Myth Wukong, but first, it's a new year. We're going to make a tier list of the games that we streamed throughout 2024. Now, I'm only including ones that I actually beat. Because I mean, you know, I was still in the middle of Infinite Wealth, but I think I just ended up getting super sick and just decided to focus on Persona 3 instead. And we're still in the middle of Black Myth Wukong, so can't really rate that. But also live service games, even if I just played it once, I put it on here just because it's gonna constantly get updated. But yeah. So let's go ahead. Honestly, I don't think we need 5 tiers. This wasn't really that bad of a year, so I think we only really need 3 tiers. So we're gonna make this. There we go. Didn't want me to change the S tier. So obviously we're gonna have top tier. We're gonna have high tier. And then we're gonna have mid tier. Because again, we didn't really have any stinkers this year, or at least I didn't play the stinkers. So I don't think anything on this list is really lower than mid tier. But okay, so now for whatever reason it put Shadow of the Erdtree at the top, so we'll just start from the bottom instead. I don't know why I did that. I got both the Elden Ring pictures right next to each other, but for some reason it put Shadow of the Erdtree way up here, and then Elden Ring all the way down here. I don't know why. But alright, so let's go ahead and we'll start off with Zenless Zone Zero. Now, I've said I do enjoy the game. I think it's a lot of fun. However, purely for ethical reasons, this is only going in mid-tier because it's a gacha. The entire point of the game is to get you to gamble and spend money. So, I ethically, it cannot be higher than mid-tier. I enjoy the game. I think it's a lot of fun. But it cannot go higher than mid-tier. Without me, feeling like I'm, selling out and, 2025, lads. What's happening, Alpaca? But yeah, so we'll put this mid-tier, specifically just because it's a gacha. I think it's a fun game, but, the core mechanic is gambling. So, ethically, it goes in mid-tier. Alright, next we got Visions of Mana. This was really fun. I really enjoyed this. But it does have some issues, the one skill that I put on Val to turn him into a tank, which gives him, increased, chance to be targeted by enemies. It just straight up doesn't work on some bosses. And unfortunately, because Square Enix is fucking evil, they shut down the studio that made Visions of Mana, 2 days after the game launched. So those kinds of issues are just not going to get fixed. Also, some classes are just genuinely way better than the others. I mean, I guess it's sort of balanced by the fact that, once you max out a class, you can basically create your own class. But yeah, what was your personal game of the year, Alpaca? We'll get to... I'll probably do a top 10 once I'm done listing everything. But what was your personal game of the year? But yeah, so unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed it, just due to the issues that it had, I feel like I can't rate it higher than high tier, and unfortunately, it's never going to get fixed because Square Enix is evil. I don't remember that video game. What was it about? Was it a horror game? Alright. Next we got World of Warcraft: The War Within. Ooh. This one's gonna be rough. I'm gonna put it in mid-tier. The patches have made it better, but it released in such a buggy state that, I legitimately was just okay, I'm going to put this down for now. I'm going to wait for the bugs to get patched, and then I'll come back to it, and I just never came back to it. The amount of, unbalanced nonsense and glitches that The War Within launched with. There was one dungeon in particular, the Dawnbreaker is what I think it's called. And... I don't know those games. What are they? What are they about? Are they VVVVVVV? Hey, what's going on? Aspect? How's it going? How's your day going? I hope I pronounced your name right. Oh, it is like VVVVVVV. Okay, alpaca. That sounds neat. um, but yeah, like Dawnbreaker, I think was a dungeon name. Like the ship that you're supposed to go on just wasn't spawning for people. There was one point where like you have to fly around to other ships to kill enemy commanders. It doesn't matter. Okay. Well, I just like to make sure I'm pronouncing people's names right. I don't know. It would be a little goofy. Like my name's easy enough to pronounce, like Bill, but like if you called me like Blil, it'd be like, okay, come on, man. Like I just want to make sure I'm being like respectful, if that makes sense. But yeah, and then like there was that ship where like you have to fly around to enemy commanders and kill them before going to the boss. I clipped through a ship and died. I literally just landed on it, clipped through it, fell to my death. Like it was rough. I think they fixed most of the stuff, but like I haven't gone back to it to really confirm it yet. So for now, it's just gonna be in mid tier. Okay, next Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, absolutely a top tier, absolutely top tier. This is the only downside to this compared to the original is that it's 30 frames per second instead of 60. That is the only issue. But they've said that Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible with all Switch 1 games, and people have data mined a 60 FPS mode for Thousand Year Door. So just play it on the Switch 2 when it comes out. This is like it's literally just Thousand Year Door, but with more content and with better quality of life stuff. It is the better way to play Thousand Year Door. Like Thousand Year Door was already a top tier game. The remake is just a topper tier version of it. It is the perfect way to experience Thousand Year Door. All right, and next we've got Nine Souls. Oh, this was amazing. Nine Souls was amazing to play through. There were some issues I had with like some janky hitboxes on some attacks, but the main defensive mechanic, the parrying, has such generous like perfect parry frames that really it's not that big of a deal thinking about it because you can just parry so easily and get the perfect parries on top of that. On top of that, like you have the thing that builds the internal damage, like so even when you're on the defensive, you're still damaging the boss, which that's one of the things that I think some Souls like games get wrong is that they don't make defensive play like actively engaging. And Nine Souls I think does it perfectly. Plus it's also a Metroidvania. I fucking love Metroidvanias. They're my favorite game genre. So easy top tier pick for me. Final Fantasy 16. This is also going in top tier. Holy shit. This is like one of the most fun Final Fantasies I've ever played. The combat is very heavily Devil May Cry inspired because I think the lead combat designer was the main combat designer for Nero in Devil May Cry 5. And like it's just really funny to me that like you can go throughout the game and it's just like, oh hey, I remember this move from Devil May Cry. Hey, I remember that move from Devil May Cry. Like people complain that the story takes itself a little too seriously. Like I mean, like every Final Fantasy takes itself seriously. Like, only the side content has ever been somewhat like silly. Like in Final Fantasy 7, like you know, okay, yeah, you go to the Golden Saucer, and then there's immediately like a plot line about what seems to be Barrett going around and killing the workers in there. Like sure, you're in what's essentially like a theme park, and then it immediately goes into murder mystery. Like, but yeah, the combat absolutely like the most fun. If you're thinking about a game that's happening, in a Japanese city at night, you explore it. You can go to roofs, and also the 2000s commercials and 2000 graphics. Like you see the game that's looking from a roof at a city with skyscrapers and when the windows have lights turn
I
on
love
with a
women
cricket sound in the
having
background
rights.
and train peasant, like that would be crazy.
We all owe our lives to women.
All right, yeah, Robin, we really do. I feel like I've seen that been posted like on Twitter, like it's some indie game that's being worked on right now. Hey, what's happening, Zandiel? Like, I feel like I've heard of that. I just don't remember what it is. But yeah, Final Fantasy 16, absolutely loved it. That's easily going into top tier. Combat was absolutely my favorite part of it. All the different like, what you call it, the icons that you could use, that like gave you a different special move that you could use and stuff like that in combat. Fucking cool as shit, dude. I haven't even gotten around to the DLCs yet. Apparently the DLC gives you a fucking shotgun. Like a magic shotgun. But yeah, so yeah, that's gonna stay up there. All right, Elden Ring. Honestly, I'm gonna put Elden Ring in high tier. I was like up until like the reason it goes into high tier and not top tier, the balancing and the scaling gets completely out of whack by the time you get to, I want to say, Fire Giant. You're literally smelling a cold air when you think about a game like this. I'm smelling cold air right now because it's actually cold and has been like raining where I am. But yeah, like I just do not like the end game of Elden Ring. I think it gets completely unbalanced, just not in a fun way. But like up until that point, it's like the best game ever made. Like there's just so many cool bosses, even if they do reuse some of them. Dungeons are fun to go through. There's like so much build variety that you can do in it. It's and again, it just kind of falls flat on its face by the end of the game. Like there was like what, like a 7 or 8 boss rush by the time you get to Malekith in Crumbling Farum Azula. Like it's just the balance is out of whack, and then the pacing is out of whack. Like, it kind of just falls apart. And it's a shame that seems to happen with, like, every Souls game. It's just unfortunate. On that note, Dark Souls 3. I think this is also going to go... You've seen the requirements for Indiana Jones? I have not, mostly because I just wasn't interested in it. But I mean, the game looks very pretty and incredibly detailed, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was very high requirements. Search it up, it's crazy. Hold on. Where is... Okay, that's the wrong window. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, right? Okay, we got the Steam page here. Oh, damn. What do you mean SSD required? Not recommended, required? Ray tracing required? It recommends you have a 3080 Ti. What? And a 12th gen CPU? Oh my god. Yeah, you weren't kidding. That is insane. Dark Souls 3, I think it's also high tier. Its main problem is that it's very linear for a Souls game. RTX 4090 for the highest settings, you think? Like, they just imagine that you have a NASA supercomputer in order to play it. That's insane. Like, like, come on now, guys. I've still got a 3070. But yeah, Dark Souls 3's main problem, I think, is that it's a very linear game. Like, there's not really much to... Like, there's maybe, like, 2 side areas, and they're not even that difficult to miss. Like, one branching path that you think is a branching path actually is just a required path. You mean you don't have a NASA computer? No, I don't. I don't work at NASA. But yeah, the bosses are Honestly, in Dark Souls 3, I think the bosses are my favorite, like, in the Souls series. Like, I think it has my favorite boss fights, but it's just a little too linear for Souls games. Um, and then on top of that, like, some of the areas are just obnoxious to go through, like, the opening of, what you call it, Ring City. You kind of stick to the Lego games. Oh, I could run those. I could run those easily. Yeah, like with the angels in like the beginning of Ring City, which apparently they were even worse on release. Like I played it after they were nerfed, but apparently like the angel enemies were even worse on release. And then there's that segment with all the ghost archers, which is just, it's neat the first time, but it's kind of a slog getting through it. Like, ugh. And then there's also like the prison section where you have the enemies that constantly reduce your max health. Like, some of the areas are just annoying to get through. What about Power World? Power World technically has a final boss, and I didn't finish it, so it's not on here. But I will say I had fun with Power World. But yeah, so Dark Souls 3, nice high tier. Okay, Shadow Generations. It's easily top tier. It is easily the best Sonic game that we have gotten, like, by far. Like, I'm so glad Sonic games are good again, man. You have no idea. I mean, the squid form is a little awkward to control, but thankfully it really isn't that necessary to all the platforming. Like, there's maybe, like, one or two levels that really make extensive use of it. And even then, those sections are pretty easy to go through. But yeah, just more character development for Shadow. Always a plus in my Sonic Forces. We would make a low tier specifically for Sonic Forces if it was on this list. But yeah, the platforming is still super tight. I love the levels, even though they acknowledge Sonic 06. Apparently the director right now for Sonic games wants to remake Sonic 06. Honestly, Godspeed. If he can turn Sonic 06 into an actually good Sonic game, the man will be a fucking, like, he will be like the greatest game director ever. But yeah, Shadow Generations, top tier easily. Multiverses. This one kind of hurts, but honestly, I have to put it in mid tier. The game just launched in an, like, unacceptable state. Like, I blame it entirely on WB because the same thing happened to Mortal Kombat 1. Like, the gameplay was completely changed in Multiverses. It was a lot slower. People didn't like that. I thought it was okay, but a lot of people didn't like that. And then there were just, again, just, like, weird, like, interactions with a lot of hitboxes. There was, like, weird... Game just had its moment and no one ever heard about it anymore. Basically, yeah. Which is just a shame, because I really enjoyed my time with the beta. It was just that, unfortunately, the netcode really couldn't handle the fast movement for it. And this was something that, like, I heard someone else, like, theorize, was that the game was slowed down because the netcode couldn't handle the speed that it was at. But yeah, like, I mean, I signed up for tournaments for it. I played. I got to, like, top 8 in one of them. I had fun with it, but it was just, it released in an unacceptable state. Like, you couldn't do, like, in local offline play, you didn't have access to all the characters. Like, what the fuck were you doing? What was going on? What was your thought process behind that? Like, that would mean that, like, local tournaments would have to pay, like, $200 for a single setup. Like, come on. Like, it just released in a really, really bad, in a really bad state. It's gotten better with patches, but again, it should not have released in the state that it was in. And I'm hoping that they can find their footing. It will be lost media in maybe 3 years. Oh no. I hope not. I really see potential in it, but it's rough. It's rough, man. And I hope it gets better. Speaking of games, though, Did I review Silent Hill 2 yet? No, it's up here. We're getting to it. Speaking of fighting games, though, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising. This was probably my favorite fighting game that I played this year. This was actually a lot of fun to play, and I really want to get back into it. I just haven't for, like, because there's other things that I've been trying to do, and just, like, the time to learn a fighting game is just, like, it is a big time commitment. Also, the story mode was actually kind of fun, even though there were some, even though there was that one sus moment with Normaya and Jita. But I think I joked, like, if I had a nickel for every purple-haired, big-boobied lady in an anime game that claimed to be the main character's sister, I would have, and their relationship together made me extremely uncomfortable, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. But yeah, I actually, like, think it's probably, like, one of the better story modes that a fighting game has done, especially since, like, you can actually, like, change around, like, skills and stuff that you have in them. It's actually fun to play through the story mode, which is wild that, like, there's actually a decent story mode for a fighting game. And on top of that, the actual fighting game itself is a lot of fun. Like, I had a lot of fun trying to learn 2B when they released her. And even, like, the basic bitch-ass character, like Gran, is a lot of fun to learn how to play. Like, it's just a really fun fighter, and I really need to try and get back into it. That's what it boils down to. Oh my god, I can't see. I need to go to Aspect. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, Fortnite. Honestly, Fortnite's going in high tier. I enjoyed the stream that I did of Fortnite. I understand why the Zoomers love it now. Like, I'm terrible at shooters, and I typically don't like battle royales, but I actually enjoyed playing Fortnite. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe some of that was due to the fact that, you know, I teamed up with Trash, who was wearing a Goku skin, and they sniped Leonardo the Ninja Turtle in the head. You're not touching Fortnite after the Skibidi Toilet update. I mean, honestly, the fact that, like, fucking Goku, Vegeta, like, John Wick, Skibidi Toilet, like, it's goofy to me. Skibidi Riz, though. Yeah, see? Alpaca knows what's up. He's got that Skibidi Ohio Riz. But honestly, like, just as a game itself, like, it was just fun to, like, mess around, like, learn how the actual game plays, and, like, even the not giving a single byte of storage on my SSD for Fortnite. Clearly, someone's not a Sigma, Skibidi, Ohio resident who's got no Riz and no cat. But yeah, no, like, it was actually really fun to play. That I actually did enjoy the stream that I did of this, and I genuinely considered, like, playing more of it off stream. Spent money on this game, I don't know, man. Not giving any more money to it, I guess. Alright, Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. So this is, like, probably one of the weaker entries for Castlevania, but it's still really fun to me. You've been recruited to Super Earth, you might be getting Helldivers 2, and you're not usually in the FPSs. That's another one that I wanted to try, but I just didn't, because there were other things that I wanted to try that were coming out. But yeah, Helldivers 2 looks really fun, too. Like, I don't know, maybe eventually I'll get into it. We'll see. But yeah, Portrait of Ruin is probably, like, one of the weaker entries to Castlevania, but this being a weaker entry, it's still a really good game. It's just a matter, like, the main issue that I think it has is that Charlotte is, like, a garbage character. I mean, like, in terms of gameplay, her main purpose is to buff Jonathan so that he does more damage. And it's like, okay, so one of your 2 playable characters is completely worthless. Very cool video game. That's like my main issue with it. Like, it's just, I know some Castlevania fans don't like the fact that it's an anime art style. I am not bothered by it at all. especially because Rondo of Blood used an anime art style, and people still like that one. So, but yeah, like, my main issue with it is just that Charlotte is only useful as a buff bot for Jonathan. Okay, next, Astrobot. Easy top tier. There's a reason this won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It's like, this is probably more fun than, like, this is like basically Mario Galaxy levels of fun. Like, holy shit. On top of it being like just a celebration of 30 years of PlayStation IPs, like, this is just one of the best platformers I've ever played. Like, it's so fun. The controls are so fucking smooth, and all of the little references that they have for all of the PlayStation IPs, it's great. It's adorable. I love it. Back to playing Roblox, just playing a game where you have maps. Like, you fight one of the maps. Okay, so Roblox good, Fortnite bad. Okay, I don't understand Zoomers. But yeah, Astrobot, amazing. Absolutely deserved Game of the Year. World of Warcraft, Season of Discovery. So I'm still, like, playing that. I just don't stream it because the guild that I'm in doesn't like streamers, so I don't stream. Like, I don't stream that anymore. That's the reason why I also kind of stopped streaming The War Within. Like, they just don't want to be streamed, so I don't stream it anymore. They had kind of a rough patch with I think it was Phase 3 where they introduced the Sunken Temple raid and the Nightmare Incursions. And the second phase of content was kind of rough too, because the best way to level was to just spam Scarlet Monastery, and I think people went insane during that because I played a Feral Druid because I was on Alliance, and Feral Druids could give Wind Fury, which Alliance didn't have access to until Season of Discovery. And during the whole Scarlet Monastery grind, I had people, like, actively role-playing with my Feral Druid because, like, they shapeshift into a cat in order to deal damage, like, with bleeds and stuff. I had people, like, in my dungeon groups, like, actively role-playing that, like, I was an actual cat. I think it actually drove people mad. People were genuinely, like, losing brain cells doing this grind. It was bad. Like, Phase 2 and 3 were pretty rough, but now they're on, I think, Phase 7, and they've basically adjusted, like, all the main, like, issues that the season has had, and it's in a pretty good spot right now. So yeah, it's been really fun. I've been really enjoying my time with it. Don't tell it. Only game you play on Roblox besides Cart Ride to 17 Pregnant Hyenas. What? What is that name? Okay, Tribe 9. That's going in mid-tier. It's another fucking gacha. And, like, it's such a it's just so awkward to play. Like, so the main thing that gets me, right, is that they want you to have a tank to draw enemy aggro. And that way your glass cannon DPS can just wail on enemies. But every time an enemy deals damage to one of your party members, they build up like a tension meter. And when the tension meter gets full, they get increased damage, they get new moves, they get more aggressive and shit like that. And it's just like, well, what the fuck do you want me to do then? Like, do you want me to have a tank? Because that's going to completely fuck me over. Do I not have a tank? And everyone just dies in 2 hits? What do you want me to do? Like, I'm sorry, the design philosophy is at odds with each other. Like, I mean, actually, like, controlling the characters is fine, and the gear system, like, actually does make a difference for your characters. You actively become more powerful, like, if you build properly, and it feels good when you get your proper build. But it's like I said, the tension meter thing is at odds with how they want you to build your teams. So, like, maybe if they adjust that, like, I don't know, maybe it'll be better then. Like, maybe if they tone down the amount of tension that enemies gain for hitting your tank, it'll be better. At least I didn't forget my boy Raiden from Metal Gear Rising. Oh yeah, like I said, like all the references and characters that they have in Astrobot, like it's great. It's freaking great. You watched another reaction to the Game Awards, and they were so heated that Astrobot beat Black Myth Wukong for Game of the Year. Well, the only people who are mad that Astrobot won Game of the Year are people who didn't play Astrobot. Let's be real. All right. Tekken 8. I'm gonna put that in high tier. Monkey. Yeah, the only thing they care about is being monkey. Tekken 8 was a lot of fun to learn. However, like, I know they said they wanted the focus on Tekken 8 to be about aggression. And even higher level players were like, this is too, like, offense pressure based. Like it was basically like whoever got the first hit in the round, like you were just immediately put into a vortex and you just had to guess, otherwise you were just eating strings until death. But I mean, when you weren't the one on the receiving end of those mix-ups and shit, it was really fun. But then they also did the thing like the $5 stage that people didn't like. The DLC is mostly just legacy characters, which people don't like. Although they did add Clive from Final Fantasy 16 into the DLC, which I want to try and get back into that to learn Clive, because that's just cool. But yeah, like the fighting itself is actually like really solid at a mid-level, which is basically what I am. Like, I have an idea of what I'm doing, but I'm not very good at it. But like watching high-level tournaments, and it's like, you know, like people are still like spacing each other out and playing footsies and stuff, but it's like once they get that first hit in, it's like, okay, well, time to eat, you know, 17 50-50s until you die. So for my level of play, I'll say it's high tier. I really enjoyed it. Silent Hill: The Short Message. It was all right. It was a free game that they did like back when they announced Silent Hill's revival. It was all right for what it did. The main problem for me is just that like it was mostly chase sequences, and the dialogue was very like, it was a little too like blunt, I guess is what I want to say. Like there was no real like nuance to anything in it. Like, it was fine for what they wanted to do. Like, apparently it was meant to be, like, an anti-bullying PSA, because apparently, like, bullying is a really big issue in Japan. Like, that's also why, one of the Judgment games had an entire, like, plot around, like, school bullying. Because, like, apparently, like, you know, oh, you'll get called names or slurs in America, but, like, they'll fucking kill you in Japan, and the law won't do anything about it. Like, that's how bad it is, so that's why, like, this was, like, focused on, like, an anti-bully thing. Like I said, like, it's alright for what it tries to do, but it's not, like, offensively bad, it's just, That's how I feel about it. Persona 3 Reload. That's gonna go in the top tier, easily. Holy shit, Persona 3 Reload was so good, man. Atlas is really good at making turn-based RPGs. Disturbing the peace. But yeah, Atlas is really good at making turn-based RPGs, and I genuinely do like the kind of like Pokemon aspect of it, of trying to find the enemy's like weaknesses and stuff, and exploiting them for the for like the, what do they call it, like baton pass or whatever, in order to like target all the enemy's weaknesses and you know, just delete them with an all-out attack. Like the little side things that they have in Tartarus for like the bonus, but like, I like this so much I actually fought the Reaper and beat him. Like, that's how much I was enjoying Persona 3 Reload. I didn't do that in Persona 5, but I went out of my way to fight the Reaper in Persona 3. Yeah, it's peak. It's peak. Like, there's... So, okay. And also, the writing is also really good, too. Like, I can count on one hand the amount of games that have actually made me shed a tear. Persona 3 is one of them. Like the ending fucking got me, man. That ending fucking got me. So yeah, it's top tier easily. It's peak. Okay, next Mega Man X3. It's also peak. Mega Man X3 is also peak. I just fucking love the Mega Man X games, man. They're like my favorite platformers. And like, there's actually so much to do in Mega Man X3 outside of just like the Robot Masters. Like, you have Bit and Bite, like making sure you fight specific Robot Masters in or Mavericks. Robot Master is Mega Man. They're Mavericks in Mega Man X. But yeah, like you fight the specific Mavericks in a certain order, so you get the weaknesses for Bit and Bite. And then that'll get you a new boss during the end stages. You can fight Vile. You can get Zero Z Saber. You can get the golden armor chips. There's just so much. There's just actually so much to do in Mega Man X3. It's crazy for a Super Nintendo game, a Super Nintendo platformer. It's insane. The game's also like hard as shit too. Like, this is probably the hardest Mega Man X, honestly. And it's like, it's not like unfair bullshit or anything either. It's just like you have to actually like know what you're doing in order to beat it. Okay, next, Marvel Rivals. I'm gonna put that in high tier. I had a lot of fun when I streamed this, and then when Enrique had his in-house like tournament. Another game, what? But yeah, when there was that like in-house thing, Marvel, and they gave us Gyat. Yeah, they gave Venom the fattest Gyat I've ever seen. And then they gave him a new winter skin, and they gave him an even fatter Gyat. It's kind of insane. However, it's like pretty early on. I don't know, like, I don't think we really have a proper idea of how the balancing is in the game. So I'm just gonna put it in high tier. Just to be safe. Like, honestly, for these kind of games, like, it kind of lives and dies by its balancing. And right now, people are still trying to figure out how to actually play the game. Like, on launch, people were like, oh, Wolverine's dog shit. If you pick Wolverine, you're throwing. And then recently, like, this one dude went viral because he was, like, a god tier Wolverine player. So people were like, maybe Wolverine's actually not that bad. But I think once we, like, get a better idea of how the balance is, it'll either move up to either top tier or to mid tier. Again, these kinds of games, they live and die by their balancing, which is why people, like, despise Overwatch. Like, Blizzard balancing just does not work for a game like Overwatch. Like, I don't know, like, because I got World of Warcraft on here, right? I play World of Warcraft. Blizzard balancing fucking sucks, because, like, if one class is overperforming, they get fucking gutted. And if another class is underperforming, they get buffed into absurdity. Like, Blizzard is really bad at balancing. It's kind of comical, honestly. Like, there was actually, I think, going back to War Within, I think, like, because one of the things they had were the hero talents, and I think for rogues, there was a hero talent where, because you have to choose all of the hero talents by the time you reach max level in the game. And there was a hero talent for one of the classes, I think it was rogues. When you took the talent, it was legitimately a DPS loss. It made you worse for choosing it. When was the last time you played Marvel Rivals? A while ago. Probably that in-house thing that I was talking about. I want to play more of it, but again, like, I just haven't gotten around to it. Things changed. I know they had a patch for Marvel Rivals. I don't know how much of it had really changed. It's almost 4 p.m. in the new year and they're still firing fireworks. Dude, the amount of fireworks I heard going off last night, and then immediately followed by a fire truck, was hilarious. Like, I would hear all these fireworks, and then right afterwards, there's a fire truck going by. Alright, next. Granblue Fantasy Relink. Holy shit, this was so much fun. this is basically kind of like Monster Hunter, but like a 4-player party RPG. Like, it was a lot of fun, dude. This was a blast. This was a goddamn blast to play through, and I loved building my characters. Like Vasaraga, fucking so much fun to play through. Your dog is a terrier, so she's not really scared of fireworks that much. My cats just didn't really give a shit about it, honestly. They were just like more upset that their nap was being disturbed. But yeah, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, a lot of fun. Building characters was a ton of fun. A lot of holy shit, the talent trees for them were so massive. I do kind of like how the gear was mostly just like the sigils, because then like, you know, you could just like what you call it, like it wasn't like you know, oh, you know, you got this specific piece that only focuses on certain stats or something like that. No, you could just put whatever stat you felt like into the character. So that was off. And I think by the end game you got up to like 10 sigil slots or something like that. It was crazy. You could get crazy. Okay, Dragon Age Veilguard. This is another one that kind of hurts. I gotta put this in mid-tier. I liked the combat of Veilguard. I thought it was fun. But it's a BioWare game, and the main thing you play BioWare games for are the stories, the writing, the companions, and stuff like that. And that just sucked in Veilguard. Like, the writing was not good in Veilguard. Like, at best, it was passable, and at its worst, it was just cringe. And that's not what you want out of a BioWare RPG. Like, it's fun, like I said, fun gameplay, but the writing is what really kills it. Like, that's the worst part about it, because, like, I could go back and play Mass Effect, and even though I've played it a dozen times, like, I still love the way that, like, it's written, and there's so many things that, like, I haven't even, like, seen in my playthroughs of Mass Effect, even though I've played it so much. Like, that's just how much there is in it. But with this, it's just kind of like, even watching other people, it's just like some of the choices just lead to exactly the same outcome, and it's like, all right. That's what really kills Veilguard. That's what really kills Veilguard for me. Combat's fun, though, at least. That's the only saving grace for it, honestly. Alright, Castlevania, Dawn of Sorrow. This is probably the best DS... Well, no, because DS Castlevania also has Order of Ecclesia. But Order of Ecclesia and Dawn of Sorrow, I kind of put on, like, the same tier. Like, they're very, very close to each other. I think Order of Ecclesia is a little bit better. But we didn't finish it this year, so I can't rate it. So Dawn of Sorrow gets to go up here instead. But yeah, again, I just love Metroidvanias. I'm completely biased. I will not change my opinion. We are moving on. Trials of Mana. I'm going to put that in high tier as well. Its main issue is probably the fact that the combat can feel really repetitive by the time you get later into the game. Honestly, I still think it's fun and enjoyable, especially, like, because the main game isn't really that long. And it really, like, emphasizes, like, different playthroughs with different characters and stuff like that. And so you get, like, extra little bits of dialogue between the different party members depending on who you have. And that's really where I find, like, a lot of the there's a good chunk of enjoyment for that, like, outside of just the beat 'em up combat for it. I really do like the level up system for it as well, where you can, like, specialize in the stat. Like, even something like strength for a mage is useful in Trials of Mana, and I think that's neat. All right, next one, Silent Hill 2. So, okay, Silent Hill, the short message was just all right. Silent Hill 2 knocked it out of the fucking park, dude. Silent Hill 2 is, like, probably the definitive, like, benchmark for remakes. Holy shit, this was so fucking good, and everything was stacked against Bloober Team. Like, everyone was shitting on them. Nobody believed in them. They all were like, oh, they're gonna ruin Silent Hill 2. No. It's so, so good. Silent Hill 2 remake, so good, I learned to speedrun it. Okay? I do not play games like that. I learned to speedrun this shit. I got a time that at the time was 40 seconds off of the world record. Like now, like I was second place on the console leaderboard because it just doesn't run well run well on PC, and I also don't like load time removal strats. So I ran it on PS5 instead. But like I said, I got to a point where I was 40 seconds off the world record, but now at this point, I think my time is like fourth place on the console leaderboard. I think it's like 5 minutes off world record now or something. I'll have to double check. But yeah, I kind of want to try and get back into speed running it. I only uploaded the one run, but yeah, I think Silent Hill 2 is like the standard. Like it used to be Resident Evil 2, but now I think it's Silent Hill 2 is like the standard for old game remakes. It's so good. It's so good. Okay. Peggle Deluxe. This is a funny little game. It's not life-changing or anything. It's a funny little puzzle game. I had fun with it. Although, God tier. It's not life-changing or anything. Also, I do feel a little bad that I was, like, peer pressured into submitting the VOD as a run for speedrun.com, because technically it was not the slowest run on there. And then the poor moderators had to verify it. I am so sorry, Peggle speedrun moderators. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was a funny game. All right, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond. This is the mod that Maximilian dude put like a team together in order to make. I always thought Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite had fun gameplay, but everything else about it sucked. And now this mod has fixed the issue of everything else sucking, so it goes into top tier. I'm legitimately hoping that this somehow breathes new life into it, because holy shit, I fucking love Marvel. Marvel vs. Capcom is my favorite fighting game franchise. I hope it breathes new life into Infinite. And worst case scenario, we just get a rollback netcode patch for Marvel 3. Okay. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. That is also going in top tier. Holy shit. I can't believe it took me this long to get into the Yakuza series. Like, this is such a fun beat 'em up. And it also has, like, a really good story to go along with it. Like, what the hell? Why didn't you guys tell me about this before? Why did I have to wait so long to get into the Yakuza series? The thing is, like, even without, like, I've only played up to Yakuza 2 right now. And the ending still almost got me in The Man Who Erased His Name. Like, that's just how good it is. Like, even without the full context, without the full, like, the full context of Kiryu's complete character arc, the ending still almost got me. Like, that's just how amazing it is. And then the gameplay, it's just a really fun beat 'em up as well. Like, you can juggle enemies and shit. Like, you got a Coliseum where you got, like, a horde mode where there's, like, your army versus another army. Like, it's so much fun, dude. The combat in this is so good. And then you got, like, there's also, like, a gear system. Like, you got stuff that gives you extra bonuses. Like, oh, you take more damage, but you also, deal insane amounts of damage. Like, you'll get two-tapped, but you'll two-tap other enemies. Or just things like, oh, increases the damage of certain things. And then you've also got, like, the two styles where one focuses on, like, goofy-ass, like, gadgets, like rocket shoes and drones. And then the other one is just straight fists. Like a Dragon Gaiden is just so cool, and I really can't wait for Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is a goofy title for a game, but damn it, like RGG is just so good at making these kinds of beat 'em ups. I'm actually looking forward to a game called Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. All right, Lies of P. Lies of P is Lies of Peak. This is like the best Souls-like I've ever played. Like, holy shit, yeah, it's linear like Dark Souls 3, but they focused all of their efforts on making the combat so engaging and fun. Like, one of the things I said before was, like, Souls-likes don't usually focus on making, like, defense fun or engaging. They do that in Lies of P, though. Like, perfect parry and everything, like, breaking weapons, and then just, like, if you manage to perfect parry enough, like, you can stagger enemies. Like, that actively makes being on the defensive fun, because even though you're not attacking the enemies, you're building up, like, a meter to just completely shit on them. And then on top of that, like, you got so much customization with, like, the P organ and the all the, like, amulets and stuff that you find, and they got cool things on it too, like, you know, oh, doing a perfect parry gives you increased damage for your next attack, which was really fun to use for big damage numbers on my strength build. And then on top of that, like, going into New Game Plus is actually, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they encourage you to do that because you get new shit. Like, you get new tiers to the P organ, and you get better upgrades for, like, the gear and stuff. Like, it's just so cool, man. It beat out Bloodborne for my favorite Souls. Like, that's how good it is. Oh shit! I didn't realize my tier list would go on this long. We got an ad break coming up. We got to finish these last couple of things. Okay. Another Crab's Treasure. I wanted to like this more. I wanted to like it more than I ended up. Like, I feel like it just suffers from a case of, like, oh, well, Souls games are fun because they're hard, right? And it just doesn't really hit the mark at all for what makes a Souls game, like, fun or enjoyable. Like, there's so many little gotcha moments in the level design. It almost felt like Dark Souls 2. Like, it feels like Dark Souls 2, but with platforming elements. And it's just, like, it's not a bad game. It's just, I wish I liked it better. But I really can't due to just how it's designed. Okay, 2XKO. We had the 2XKO alpha. This was actually really fun as well, but, you know, this is Riot's, like, first fighting game that they're making, and fighting games require very delicate balance. So there were some things that people found that were just completely goofy, but I don't think they're really afraid of, like, you know, goofy shit being found, because they have one of the few selectors is, like, the double tag thing, which lets you, like, call an assist twice for, like, or swap to your assist, like, twice in one block string, which is just... I feel like that's going to be, like, the meta one, unless they just, like, significantly reduce your damage after, like, swapping to a character. But overall, the alpha was pretty solid. It just suffered from, you know, alpha moments where, like, sometimes there were, like, desyncs, or, you know, there were weird, like, scaling issues for certain characters. Like, apparently, Ahri back assist was completely busted because it just did not do any... It just did not affect the damage scaling of the combo at all. So you got absolutely absurd touch of deaths with certain characters when you had Ahri on your team because the back assist was just that good. But I mean, I think they've got some like fighting game developer, like, veterans on the team to help them out with it. So honestly, I have high hopes. They said that there's gonna be another alpha lab in the spring. I'm really looking forward to that because I didn't get a chance to play much of the alpha lab when it first came out because I got, like, really sick, like, the first day after that it came out, and I'm really upset by that because I wanted to play a lot of it because I had a lot of fun, and I just couldn't. because I was just like in bed all day because I was just like, ugh. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to more of that. All right. And now we've got Shadow of the Erdtree, the last one here. This is probably going to be really controversial. Honestly, the more that I play through Shadow of the Erdtree, the less that I find to like about it. Like, one of the main criticisms about the base game of Elden Ring is just that the open world is very, like, empty and barren. I feel like that's even worse in Shadow of the Erdtree. Because it's just like, you go around and you explore, and then the only thing that you really find are cookbooks that give you recipes for items that are like so incredibly niche that like you'll never use them. The only thing that matters when exploring in Shadow of the Erdtree are the Shadow Tree blessings, like the Shadow Tree fragments and the revered spirit ashes. And they just, so those things piss me off so much because they're just thrown all over the goddamn place. Like the first one that I found, I clicked snooze on the ads, so hopefully it doesn't just cut in the middle of in the middle of me ranting. So like the first Shadow Tree fragment that I found, it was at a Miquella's Cross, and I was like, it's a victory that the DLC didn't win any of the awards. Yeah, seriously. Like the first Shadow Tree fragment I found was at a Miquella's Crossing, and I was like, oh, okay, it's gonna be like, you know, the golden seeds in the base game where they're at these very clearly signposted spots on the map. And then I think the next one I found was from one of those like shade dudes that have the jar on their head, and it was just like, oh. And then I found another one that was just on a random corpse in the middle of nowhere, and it was just like, oh. Like, it was, oh. I understand it's an open world. They want you to go out and explore the open world and get stronger, but that was just fucking tedious. And especially the case, like, if you want to get to the max level of Shadow Blessing, you have to find every single Shadow Tree fragment. And especially with, like, how awful the final boss was for the DLC, that's another thing, too. Holy shit. Consort Radahn, outside of Beta Chaos, I think is the worst boss that FromSoft has ever made. Like, there are actual videos breaking down how terrible he is. Someone actually broke down the frame data for that 1-2 cross-slash move that he does. Like, okay, you wanna know how bullshit that move was? So first of all, the easiest way to avoid it was you had to fucking hump his right leg. And then the second you saw an attack go out, you dodge towards his back so that you could avoid the second slash before he turns around and tries to do the cross slash. But you can't really do that consistently because he'll run around the arena a lot, or he'll do moves that, like, reposition himself. And then by the time he, like, gets to you, he might just do the 1-2 cross slash. And someone looked at the frame data for it, and they found out that in order to be able to time your dodges, to dodge every single hit in that combo, you had a 3-frame window from when he first started his animation to roll and then be able to actually dodge everything if you weren't at that, like, specific spot, like, on his right leg in order to dodge that cross slash. Like, there were 3 frames, and by the time he lifts up the sword to actually slash at you, that's frame, like, 18 or something. It's got, like, a 30-frame startup for the first slash. So realistically, no, you are not fucking dodging that attack. Like, Radahn was so fucking bad. Like, he was the only boss that they nerfed in the DLC. Like, that's how bad he was. I beat him before the patch, and he's just a dog shit boss fight. Absolute garbage. Absolute ass. Like, honestly, again, I genuinely think that Shadow of the Erdtree, it's okay. Like, there are some good bosses in there, and the area, like the art is fucking outstanding. It is a beautiful fucking area. But like again, the open world section of it is just a barren wasteland with nothing outside of just those shadow tree fragments that you have to scour the entire fucking map to find because they don't bother to actually signpost them. And there's like nothing else worthwhile in the goddamn world besides the cookbook that lets you make the fucking shit pot. And then again, like there's some cool bosses. Like I really like Bale, I really like Mesmer, I really like Midra, but then there's also other bosses that are just obnoxious or just frustrating, like Radon and the Shadow Tree Avatar and Commander Gaius. Like, it's just like I said, the more playthroughs I do of Shadow of the Erdtree, the less that I see to like about it, and it really sucks. It really sucks that that's the case. But okay, yeah. This is our tier list for all the games that we did. This looks pretty good. I think this looks pretty definitive. All right, yeah, I'm happy with that. This looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and play the ads, and then we will be back to Black Myth Wukong. All right, we'll be right back.